Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Connection Conversation podcast. I'm Saundra Washington. My guest today is Pat Mahon. Pat is the Deputy Village Administrator for the Village of South Holland. In 2012, Pat ran for State Senate in Illinois. She didn't win, but I think it gave her a really good perspective on campaigning. I know she's going to talk a little bit about that today. Pat, I'm delighted to have you as my guest. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Saundra. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this campaigning. You've been in campaigns. What do you think about all this negative campaigning that's going on in this campaign season?
Yeah, I think it's not good. It's interesting if anyone turns on the TV for 5 minutes, they are inundated with negative campaign ads. I feel that there's no upside to negative campaigning. I think there are downsides to it. One in particular is that you may not put the best person in office if you're voting solely on the negative ads, the negative things that you hear or read.
Right. So that we as voters begin to react to that negative part. Is that what you're saying? And we're not paying attention to who's the best. We're trying to eliminate who's the worst or something like that, right?
Yes, absolutely. I truly believe, Saundra, that those who are privileged to serve public office, they have to be people who have true servants' hearts. They have to want to put their needs in front of others, and they have to want to serve with the right motivation.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
it's hard to see that, right? It's hard to see that when they're tearing each other down. It's really hard to tell.
Absolutely. You don't want someone in public office who wants to be elected, who just wants to be elected to public office. That's not who you want in office.
Okay, so you're saying that the ideal is someone who really has, who understands that it's about being a servant for the people. And again, negative campaigning doesn't even bring out that kind of attitude.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what do you think it does to those of us who are watching? I mean, what impact does negative campaigning have on voters, do you think?
There's a couple of things. First, you run the risk of low voter turnout because all the negativity has turned people off and they just say, well, I'm not going to even go vote because all I hear is negative things. That's not what I want to be a part of, so I just won't even go to the polls and vote. More importantly, I think you deter those who are truly qualified from ever running for office, and that's really a tragedy.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Who would want to put themselves and their families at risk? I mean, in these campaigns, they dig up things about people and their history. Yes, who would want to do that? So I agree. Good people are turned away or frightened away.
Absolutely. People who see these ads and see all the negativity would say, why would I put myself or my family through that? So I won't run for office. And we miss the opportunity as citizens to have someone represent us who can be very good at doing that.
Sure. So how can we as voters cut through all this and find good people? How can we tell who's any good if all they're doing is bashing each other? How do we pick good candidates through all that?
It may be hard to do for some folks, but if you can weed through the negativity and try to ascertain what each candidate will do to improve the lives of all of us, you will feel like you are truly making a difference by exercising your right to vote. You have to take the time and you have to listen to what they're saying that they're going to do. You have to listen to what they say their qualifications are, and then you have to determine who you believe. If you can just weed through all the negativity, then it will be worthwhile.
Right. It sounds like, though, that means we have to put in a little more effort as voters. We have to be more sophisticated, but it'll be worth it in the end.
Absolutely.
I have kind of a different question, and that is, I'm wondering how we can change this system. Is there something that could happen that could help get rid of some of this negative campaigning and just change the way people campaign?
That's a great question. My immediate thought goes to campaign finance reform. I have always been an advocate of that. I have never thought that the amount of money you have in your bank account or the amount of money that you're able to raise qualifies you as the best person for the position. I think it levels the playing field if there's some campaign finance reform. And I think it allows the candidate to focus on campaigning through the people and not through a bunch of mailers and a ton of TV and radio commercials.
All right. Yes, because without so much money, there would have to be more just face-to-face communication between candidates and the people. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, that would definitely be better. Absolutely. Well, listen, this has been really interesting. You've given us some interesting things to think about. That I want to kind of bring this conversation to a close by reminding people that early voting is going on now in the Chicago area. Whether you live in the city or the suburbs, you can get out and vote now. If you're listening and you don't live in the Chicago area, check with your local authorities. You may also be able to vote before Election Day. And of course, Election Day is Tuesday, November 6th. If you can't vote early, then absolutely, we want you to get out and vote on Election Day. This is one of the most important elections in our lifetime. We need everyone to get out and cast a vote. Pat, I want to thank you so much for being my guest today. I really appreciate your perspective. You've given us some things to think about.
Well, thank you very much again, Saundra. It has been a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, well, thank you. You've been listening to the Connection Conversation podcast. This is Saundra Washington. Thanks for listening. Bye now.